Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Essence Show and podcast. Today, we are talking about another one of the 12 universal laws. This one is the law of patterns, or as I like to reframe it for the purpose of what we're going to be talking about today, the law of rhythms. So, these 12 universal laws, we talked about a couple of them. I'm going to link the one to the law of balance right here. And as we continue talking, a couple more will come up and I'll continue linking back. But we're really going to be diving into the fact that we are part of nature. There are cycles and rhythms and patterns within nature. And so therefore these rhythms, cycles, and patterns exist within us. And how can you use this for your work, for your success, for manifesting, attracting, and creating everything that you want in your life, and being able to create a framework and a flow so that you can really sit in something that guides you as opposed to a structure that feels confining or stressful or pressure based, and to really have this energy of ease and trust and expansion around what it is that you're creating and how you're showing up for that thing. So before we dive into today's episode, if you're watching this on the Essence YouTube channel, you can see that I am wearing something different and in a different location than where the intro was just filmed and where the rest of the video is about to be filmed. So bear with me. But when I initially filmed the Law of Patterns and Rhythms episode, I had not yet completed the very special 5-day free challenge, the Soft Success Era Challenge, which is starting on March 27th. And I actually filmed a whole piece of that episode where I was just talking about this very exciting challenge that I was going to announce. And then when I looked back at the schedule for when the episodes are coming out, I realized that at that point, when this episode comes out, I will have already announced the challenge. So I was like, okay, we got to go back and refilm that. So thank you for bearing with me. Before we dive into today's episode, I'm going to just share with you what this Soft Success Era Challenge is all about. So that you have the right information as opposed to me talking nonsense about something else, because it's just a waste of time and we don't need that. So the 5-day free challenge is starting on March 27th. This is a very never before done challenge. I've never done a 5-day challenge before, and I'm so excited about this because this is going to be the celebration to the launch of the Energetic Success Studio, which is the 2-tier membership, community, and coaching collective for really activating your energetic success code within you. So understanding the energetics, the rhythms, the cycles, the cosmos, all of those things and on the energetic level of feminine energies, reactivating that, harnessing that within yourself as like your superpower, and then reincorporating the healthy masculine for the action taking, for actually succeeding, manifesting, and magnetizing everything that you're here to create and do, because you, my dear, are magnificent and magnetic and magical AF. So this challenge is a 5-day free challenge called the Soft Success Era. And at this point, if you're like, what is that about? I'm going to link a video right here so that you can get all the information on what soft success actually is and why this is important and why we're talking about it now. But you can also go into the description down below and get all the information on the sign up page for the 5-day free Soft Success Era Challenge. So in this challenge, we're going to really be talking about activating your softness as your superpower for your success glow up. So this is all about a new way of creating success, moving out of survival mode and into thriving mode. Thrival mode? I don't think that's a word, but I think we should make it a word in order to really do success on your own terms based on your own energetic success code, as opposed to this externally prescribed masculine energy based approach to success, which is really what our patriarchal world culture pushes us to do. And as women, humans with wombs, us women, have been taught to show up in this particular way for success, which isn't actually necessarily aligned with our true authentic selves and inner essence. If you want to know the dates and the times, sign up for it. If you want to have access to the replays, sign up for it. If you want to have exclusive access to the Up Level bundle, which is an activation meditation, a hypnosis, and another little goodie that you'll be hearing about at a later date, sign up for it. If you want to have a chance to win a 6-month scholarship to the Energetic Success Studio, which again is the 2-tier membership community and coaching collective. Put your name in, sign up via email. It doesn't cost you anything, but it gives you access to all of these really special and exciting and exclusive bonuses and opportunities that I really want you to have access to, because it's going to just expand the results that you get, right? Any kind of level of commitment that you put into what you do, whether that's a financial commitment or a commitment to yourself to say, okay, I'm going to put my email in so that I get these emails and I can put it in my calendar and really say that I'm going to show up for it. That is going to put in the energy of the results that you're going to get in return, right? If you're kind of like, maybe I'll show up, whatever. Of course you can do that. It's going to be live. Join me. I would love to see you there. But you're going to get a bigger and more expanded result when you show up in commitment to yourself. So that is all down below in the description. Join me there. And now that I have shared all of that, let's dive into today's episode. So today we're talking about the law of patterns, or like I said before, the law of rhythms. I like to put in rhythms there because both patterns and rhythms really make sense to my brain. And in regards to what we're going to be talking about today, what this universal law means, how you can enact it in your life, how you can implement this wisdom, there's a pattern part and there's a rhythm part. And I think having that language is really powerful, and understanding it and being able to embody this. So what I want to start off with here is that there are 12 universal laws, and these universal laws are about how we enact and understand the energy that exists around us. So we live in this universe, right? We live on this earth, and there is energy and matter within us. There is energy and matter within everything. And there are universal laws, as they are called, or principles around how we interact with this energy, how we can use this energy, and how this energy works. So the law of attraction is one of the biggest ones that we hear about all the time. And as part of that, also the law of vibration. I have a video that I will link right here that dives into those 2 laws. Like I also mentioned before, the law of balance is another one of those 12 universal laws, which talks about the fact that there's masculine energy and feminine energy within all things, which is the balance of co-creation, the balance that we experience within ourselves. And this is what we want to be working with, this law of masculine and feminine energies, in order to create balance in our lives, which is why we talk about it here. It's also why it's part of the Energetic Success Studio. There's actually the law of balance coaching collective within the studio, because this is how you create your overall balance in your life, your overall balance in how you're showing up to work. We need both of those energies. And then the law that we're talking about today, again, one of these 12 universal laws, is the law of patterns. And the law of patterns, or the law of rhythms, states that everything in nature is part of a pattern, is part of a rhythm. There are cycles in nature, there are rhythms in nature, there are these patterns that repeat themselves over and over again. And as human beings, we, you, my dear, beautiful soul, are part of nature. Nature is within you, and you are part of this cycle, part of this process. And therefore, you have these rhythms and patterns within yourself as well. So the first pattern that we can talk about here are the naturally occurring patterns and rhythms that exist within you, right? So there's the patterns that exist within nature, such as the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the seasons, the cycles of the way plants grow, the cycles of the cosmic seasons, so the zodiac signs, astrology, the cycles of the day, morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime, or midnight. So we're constantly cycling through these patterns in nature. And then we also have these patterns and rhythms within ourselves. So as women, as humans with wombs, we have our 28-day cycle that we go through. This is our hormonal cycle, this biological clock and cycle and rhythm and pattern that exists within us. Men have their own biological rhythm and pattern, which is on a 24-hour cycle. So we have these energetic patterns within nature around us, within how our bodies work, within how our energy cycles and repeats itself. Okay. Then we also have the energy of the patterns that we have within our minds, in our emotional world, in our mental world. These are the energetics of the patterns within our life. So some examples of this are the patterns of self-sabotage, the patterns of belief systems that you have, or limiting beliefs that you have. And these belief systems are created by patterns in the first place. So what did you see growing up? What did you believe to be true about success? What did you believe about relationships and about being able to be in a partnership? And so these energetic patterns about how you show up to your life are also rhythms that exist within your being, how you're showing up, right? And these patterns can either create a spiral that is moving upwards. So you're increasingly moving towards what you want to be believing. You're installing new belief systems that are in alignment with the kind of life you want to be living. Or we can have a more downwards turning spiral where we are stuck in patterns in our lives, not feeling in alignment with the things that we're creating because of the energetic patterns that are existing within us. So this means the belief systems that we have, the limiting beliefs that we're playing on repeat in our minds. This is the self-sabotaging behaviors that every time we move towards something, we pull ourselves back, or anytime we get into a healthy relationship, we start picking out the places or the parts that aren't good. Or every time we're about to sign a new client, we start to self-sabotage and we're like, "Ooh, maybe I'm not good enough." We start to question our worth. Like, what are the patterns that are showing up on an internal energetic level that are creating the reality of your life? So the body has its own cellular memory. So every time you have a pattern that is enacted in your life, or that is just the foundation of how you show up, that means that we're either responding based on a trigger response or a trauma response from something that we experienced throughout our lives. And therefore, this is our dominant belief system. This is the dominant neural pathway. So the pathway that our minds go to say, oh, this is what's right. This is how we need to respond in this situation. This is what's safe. And either it's a trauma response that is keeping us playing small in order to protect us. We want to be really conscious about the fact that when we have a trigger or a trauma response, it's coming from a place where our subconscious mind, our ego, just wants us to stay safe because its most important job is our survival. Or on the other side of that, it can be a pathway that is positive. So that can mean that it's a really helpful, healthy habit that you are playing out over and over again. So a morning routine, for example, the way you show up to your business, the way you think about your work or your worthiness in the position that you have, the way you see yourself in your relationship with your partner, the way you see yourself as deserving of love, of appreciation, of being taken care of. What are the pathways that are the dominant pathways? And that creates a pattern. So one way to think about this is a thought that you have. A thought that you have, thought, if you think it enough times, it's going to be the belief system that you have. So if you're constantly thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, or it's not safe for me to be seen, and we're thinking that over and over and over again in every different situation, this pattern is coming up again and again. That then becomes the actual belief system. This then informs how we act. So if you're constantly thinking this over and over, and that's the dominant pattern, then of course, when you show up to have the interview for that new dream job, or when you want to go and ask for a raise or a promotion, or when you go on a first date, it's going to feel like you're pulling yourself back on an energetic level because the pattern says this isn't safe, because this is the belief. So you start having actions that support this belief pattern that isn't actually serving you because it's not in alignment with the things that you want. Ultimately, that's going to give you results, and it's going to create a pattern of outcomes that are consistently not what you want. This can be the kind of relationship that you keep attracting, the kind of job that you feel maybe you're stuck in, even if you're changing jobs. Same thing with the relationships. Like, you can be dating the same kind of person over and over and over again because the patterns continue to repeat themselves. So I'll share a quick example here of my pattern and my results that I continue to get, because this law of patterns and this law of rhythms, of course, there's the rhythms that exist within us, and we'll come back to talking more about that. But I really think it's important to understand that these patterns, this law of patterns, is like a really helpful tool as well on an external level to look at what's coming up in your life and understanding that it comes from a particular repeated pattern. Again, if we want different results, we have to do something different, but we have to go deeper within ourselves first to actually understand, where is this pattern rooted from? What is the belief system that this pattern is rooted in? And I need to shift that first. I want to go there first, really heal that, mend that, hold that space in order to shift the external result that we're getting. So for me, my story really comes back to playing small. And that was my pattern, because what I learned growing up and also throughout my life in relationships, in situations, was that when I didn't play small, when I tried to be seen, when I was outspoken, it usually meant that there would be some sort of dissonance. So I would get in trouble. I would get backlash. Someone would get angry at me. Someone would feel hurt because I spoke what was true for me. And so I started creating this reality and this pattern where I didn't speak that much. I didn't share what was truly on my heart. I settled for relationships or certain experiences because I thought, well, I don't want to ruffle any feathers here. And it led to a result and an outcome where I was playing small. And so it's important to realize here that that was really, like, I have so much compassion for my past self because that was coming from a place of safety. There was this legitimate survival fear that was, if I am seen too much, if I'm too much of myself, then somehow that is going to threaten like my actual safety because there's going to be some kind of backlash, right? And on a logical level, we can of course say, well, no one was physically hurting me in this particular situation. However, that often can be the case when we're in those situations when we're feeling scared to show up and be ourselves. But in this situation, it wasn't like that. But still, I was in this feeling of I'm not safe if I do this because that is what the pattern created for me. And because of that early pattern, it then created a pattern in my life of self abandonment. I neglected my own needs, my own desires, my own authenticity because of the fear of what might happen if I actually stood in it. Does that make sense? And so this pattern started to flow into every area of my life. Like I mentioned, relationships that I had, the interactions that I had with people at work, the way that I saw myself as worthy and deserving of what I wanted to create, the way that I interacted with clients, or the way that I sold myself at the beginning of my business, the way that I saw myself as deserving of money or deserving of having a bunch of clients or deserving of being the person who talks about this. Like there was so many other patterns that came from this root pattern. And now to tie it back, this also disconnected me from my internal pattern. So this pattern of my own cycle, my own body rhythms and how I move through them. The rhythms then on the bigger picture of how we energetically move through the seasons of life, going through the ebbs and flows, trusting these different ins and outs. And it disconnected me from, again, my own inner cycle. So I wasn't in tune with my body. I wasn't in tune with my own desires because my pattern was, what does everyone else need? And how can I create that for them? Because as long as everyone else is happy, then I'm safe. But when I'm safe in that way, it's a false sense of safety because I'm not truly fulfilled. I'm not living in alignment with what I desire and what my needs are. So I really want to invite you to look at this law of rhythms and this law of patterns in a twofold system. So we have the first part, which is your inner rhythms, the rhythms of nature, the cyclical flows and patterns of life force energy, right? In plants, in the trees, in the forest, in your body, in your community, in the seasons of your life, in the creation of your projects. Like there's this natural rhythmic nature to how things flow. And I'll link a video right here that talks about this in a little bit more depth, because if you're kind of thinking like, okay, I kind of get it, but like, what does this mean? How can I actually apply this to my work? I'll link that video right here. And the second part is this pattern around how you are showing up energetically in your life. How are these patterns showing you either alignment or misalignment in what it is that you're wanting to create? So understanding the rhythms within your body, that's the first foundation. And so if there's a pattern within your life that isn't what you want right now, so let's say you keep attracting partners that aren't aligned for you, or it's the same system with a different guy or a different person every single time, or you're not getting the results that you want in your business, or there's something that's coming up at work where you really want to ask for that promotion, or you really want to collaborate on a project, but like you just can't seem to be able to speak up. And this is a pattern for you that's showing up. The first thing to do is come back to your own internal rhythms and patterns, because this is going to be your grounding foundation. In order to rise, we first need to root down. From there, you can then start to look at that specific area in your life. So I encourage you right now to just think about one area of your life. There might be more, but just focus on one where it's not exactly the way that you would like it for it to be. And again, maybe this is the relationship that you have or that you would like to have. Maybe it's money related and finances. Maybe it's your job or your career. And I want you to also be really clear. Like, if you're like, yeah, it's good, it's fine, like it pays the bills, I like the people I work with, like, notice if you're in a pattern of even just justifying where you're at right now. And if you could just expand back and if you could ask yourself, if I could have anything in the world, what would it be? Could I shift this environment? If I could wave a magic wand, would I change this area of my life? Even if it's good, even if it's okay, right? And from there, ask yourself the question, if this is an area that isn't exactly the way that I want it to be, what is the pattern that's coming up here? Is there this law of patterns that I can look at where I'm in this place right now, or this is the reality of this area of my life because of a particular pattern that's playing out on an energetic level? Does that make sense? So from there, I want you to just get curious around exploring what the pattern could be. If you want support and if you're feeling like, okay, there's so many things that could be coming up here, especially because we don't want to just change it on a action-based level, which, for example, would be like, okay, if my thing is I'm stressed about speaking up and speaking my mind because I've been taught that that creates anger and that's not safe for me, the last thing I want to do is just immediately go to my boss and be like, I want a promotion. Like, we don't want to put ourselves and our nervous systems in situations that will trigger us. We want to go back to the root cause and really understand where this pattern is coming from so that we can rewire it. So if you do want some support with that, that is what I'm here for. You can get all the information of how you can work with me, both on the show notes from the podcast and in the description underneath the YouTube video of this episode. Also, I encourage you to get on the waitlist for the Energetic Success Studio because that is going to be a really great way for you to get more access to me, to this information, to support on implementing this and actually doing this belief shifting work without the one-on-one level investment and commitment, which isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But there's also that option in the description below. I am going to leave it there. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave a rating or review if you're listening on the podcast version of the Essence Show, and I will see you next time.